What planet are you on if you think the mundane world is just fine the way it is? I mean, granted, we do experience happiness from time to time. There are experiences of pleasure and joy, but there's also a hell of a lot of stuff in the mundane world that is basically intolerable. And it's not that you shouldn't try to tolerate hardship, but there's a lot of things that seem unnecessary. There's a lot of unnecessary suffering, and there are many people who are subjected to intolerable circumstances. Now, the reason why I know some of you think that the mundane world is just fine the way it is because when I teach the truth of suffering, then some of you get annoyed. You don't like it. And I don't believe for 1 minute that you've realized equanimity, the ability to accept the good and bad equally. And that's because this is an incredibly high level of practice. Really what we do is, we hear these concepts that there is no good and bad, that everything is equal, and then we appropriate them. We try to pretend that we have this view ourselves. But it becomes quite clear when we experience unimaginable hardship, then we find it extremely difficult to accept. In the Hindu tradition, it's taught that we should accept whatever comes our way, because everything is the will of God. But in reality, there are very few people who are able to do this. I had a friend. He was a really decent and wonderful human being. He's a composer, a musician, and basically he has a really nice character. Well, one time, when he's away from home studying in England, then his entire family died in a house fire back in Ireland. Now, of course, he had to learn to live with this. And it's quite likely that he grew from the experience, or that it made him an even better human being. But I can guarantee you, if he could have had it any other way, he would have. Of course, he was transformed by his experience. But I suspect he was already a very decent human being. Very kind, compassionate, and accepting. And in fact, he was a devout Christian. But like I say, if he could have had it some other way, he would have. No one wants to lose their entire family, those dear and near to you, who you hold so preciously. To lose them is painful. And if you just try to pretend that you've realized non-duality and remain unattached and cold to the suffering of others, then your spiritual path is not going well. A sign that your spiritual path is progressing is that you have even greater empathy for others. Not that you just become cold and mutter some high concepts that you've heard, everything is equal, it's the will of God. You find this happens in places like Thailand and India, where they have a belief in karma, cause and effect. For example, if there's a bus accident on the road, and the bus driver is crushed under the wheel of the bus, then everyone just stands by and says, well, it's that fella's karma. There's no urgency to try to save their life. But this cold-heartedness is not what we're trying to develop on the spiritual path. If you have practice, then your love and compassion for others will become that much more profound and powerful. And your wish to save others from suffering in the 6 realms of samsara will increase the more your practice progresses. I knew someone many years ago. Again, he was a really decent guy, a really straightforward, down-to-earth, and decent human being. He had 2 beautiful twins, a boy and a girl. The children were staying with his wife. And the wife's brother had some kind of mental illness, like schizophrenia or something like that. And one day, the brother came by and murdered the twins. Now, of course, this experience transformed him. This experience helped him to progress on his spiritual path, and not only that, but on the basis of this horrific experience that he had to live with, he gained the ability to help others. He used to lead groups where men who had experienced trauma would come together and share their experiences. And so it's true, there is a positive side to it. There's a positive side to all suffering. The purpose of suffering is to help us grow and mature on our spiritual journey. But if we just wallow in our own pain and lash out at the world, feel vengeful and angry, then our suffering and our loss has gone to waste. So anyway, he did grow through his experience. But again, I have no doubt, I am 100% sure that if he could have had it any other way, then he would have. It's not like he wanted it to happen. It's not like he had any choice. Whether it made him go mad or he was able to accept it, he had no choice. We have no choice but to accept our suffering. We do, however, have a choice in how we act in the here and now. And it is on the basis of our acts, our deeds in the present moment, that we will either experience well-being or suffering in future times. Sorrow is a bitter lesson. But suffering is the primary cause for giving rise to renunciation. And with renunciation, then we have everything that we need to achieve awakening and liberation from the mundane world. I don't want you to suffer, but it's unavoidable. This is the meaning of the first truth that the Buddha taught. That mundane experience is full of sorrow. But we have to use this for something positive. We need this to propel us along our spiritual journey. And it is my wish that you should enter the path. And along that path, progress swiftly to final awakening and liberation from sorrow and misery. So don't take it the wrong way. I'm not trying to get you down or depress you by saying that the mundane world is nothing but heartache. But we need to recognize this. If we just try to kid ourselves that everything is okay, then we have no reason to change. And what the Buddha taught was that the suffering in the world arises from our negative acts. Our negative acts of body, speech, and mind. And amongst these 3, then mind is most important. Regardless of whether or not on the outside you act in a seemingly positive way, if your mind is poisoned by resentment and hatred, then things will never go right. We have to overcome our anger. We have to overcome our resentment. That's the first step. And then after that, we have to generate loving kindness and compassion, limitless, that stretches to all sentient beings, whether they be our friends and family, those we have no connection with, or even our enemies. So that's about all I wanted to say this evening. And until next time, and see you later.